Well, hello. Good evening, everybody. Chat's not working tonight again for some reason. Thought I had it fixed. We'll get over that. Hey, Paul, Kurt, Jeff, and Luke. Um, Good to see you here tonight, and the rest of the folks out lurking in the darkness somewhere. Um, I had a plan for tonight. May or may not go with it. Don't know. We'll see. Um, it's been a weird day and a weird week, and it's only Monday. So anyway, got here just in time indeed. Thank you for coming. Luke, yeah, the camera transitions, that's something I've actually been doing for a while. Um, yeah, they're HD all the way. And that actually kind of sort of brings up the first topic. We'll loop around to where sounds are coming from a little later as part of some other discussion. This camera is the same as it has been for the last several months, but the new eye in the sky is here, and it replaces the one that had been up there. This camera that's up there now is not as good as the previous one, but it's also a lot less expensive camera. So it I'm setting up to take the one that was the overhead shot before was a camera that belonged to a client, and I need to take that back to them probably next week, or later this week. So I figured I'd go ahead and get replace that. So that's up. They're both the $450 PTZs that I've talked about in the past. I can drop a link later on this evening in the show notes. Anyway, two PTZs now. The nice thing is that I no longer have to do grab the remote and point it at the ceiling and tilt my head up to see if it's working. Everything's under button control now. So if I go to, you can't see where I'm pushing, but I've got the Stream Deck up, and that shot now knows, or that camera from above knows this shot, and it can zoom in, give me a closer view of that, and the other things that it does. And Luke, they're just HD, 1080p cameras is all that I'm running. Nothing super fancy. That's that. New cameras. I had a whole script, and let me switch screens and see if I can. Where'd it go? Let's see. What else did I want to talk about? Some news that's useless to me, but the new Arturia. It's good news, I think. The new Arturia key labs, the Mark IIIs, actually all the Mark III key labs, mini lab, micro lab, all those things are now NKS compatible, which is great. The older ones never will be. It's just like with Native Instruments and them updating their from the Mark II to the Mark IIIs, the processing internally to the keyboards is completely different, and so the older ones just plain won't support NKS, which is kind of a shame, but also not unexpected. I don't think there's any other real news. So we'll get right to the topic at hand, and that sort of is it's kind of a lot of things interleaved. Can't find you guys. Where'd you guys go? That's not... There you are. I don't know that the 60 versus 30 frames per second doesn't really make a whole huge amount of difference, honestly. Where you would see a difference, a big difference between P30 and P60, is if I'm doing stuff like this, and then you might see some, more of that. But really, as far as sharpness is concerned, hey David, As far as sharpness is concerned, P30 versus P60 doesn't really make any difference at all. It's just 30 and 60 just indicates the frame rate. So it'll make it smoother. Crispness is, in focus and lighting and, lens and size of sensor and all those kind of things. These are, even though they're inexpensive, these are real-ish television cameras. Anytime you step up from a webcam or smartphone camera or something like that, you're going to see a difference. And I only do these because it's my business. If customers are watching, they're going to expect me to look good on television. So, because that's what I do. Cable access channel 79 class, yeah, something like that. Job security and marketing. Well, yeah. So that's going to be a thing. Not sure about job security, honestly, because so many of my clients are government related, and actually all of them really are government related in some way, and many of them grant funded. And so, the adventures have begun. We have no idea where things are going. So we will see about job security. But anyway, enough of the depressing news. So anyway, what I had wanted to sort of talk. Yes, we are living in interesting times. We're living the ancient Chinese proverb / curse. And the one that when you see it come up on the fortune cookie, you should run, run very far away. So anyway, I don't want to dwell on that tonight. I'm already in enough of a funk over it. So, what I wanted to talk about tonight in big round ways is kind of sort of why I do this, where it's going, what are the plans, and yeah, I think we all would like to go back. I have some goals, which is something I haven't really had. I've actually written down some goals for the studio, and for where I'd like to be in over the next several months. And of course, all subject to change, but the plan is, or the desire is, that I would like to have at least an EP out by the fall sometime. And I don't have hard dates yet for that, but I do have a hard date for a live performance slot, and that would follow the EP. And so I'd like to get the EP done, and then the next stage is to work on how do I take some or all of that and turn that into a performance piece, a live performance piece. It's not a studio live, my studio live performance piece. It's out on a stage, and with many synth geeks in attendance. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm also I'm wondering exactly how it's going to translate. I would like for it to be. I'd like to figure out ways to make it interesting. Because a guy sitting on a stage with a laptop and a keyboard controller is not all that interesting, I don't think. Even if the music is great. No, Kurt, no, it's an event coming up in November, and I'll be posting information about it as it's more firmed up. But it's an annual event, and it takes place at the National Electronics Museum, which is a fascinating place in and of itself. Some of the most interesting electronic stuff I think I've ever seen in my life lives in that place. I don't know, Kurt, I would love to be able to do synth shows at the Carroll Arts Center, and I don't know anybody there to talk to about it. And you know, I know that they do various kinds of performances and events there, so I just don't know who to talk to. For me, it would be very convenient to do something there. I don't know how convenient it would be for other folks, but you know. Anyway, so those are the goals: an EP by fall, and and then this performance in November. And I'm really excited about it, although I don't, you know, I don't necessarily sound excited because I'm not sounding excited about anything today. But that's you know, that's where I'm going. So now the questions are, how do I get there? And yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to go to that. I think I can go to that, Paul. I'm not sure that I will. I'm not sure I'll be able to or not. I need to check with Fritz on the dates. Some things have changed in August, so I may actually at least be able to attend. I hope I can. The date in November, I believe, is the 1st. Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think Paul knows that event as well. He will be involved as well, but I believe it's November 1st. And like I said, I'll be talking it up as it gets closer. It's a great day. I attended last year's event. It was a lot of fun. Met a lot of great people, and so it's an interesting and fun event in an interesting and fun place. First Saturday in November, whatever that ends up being. Okay, we can look. Let's see. Get the calendar. See, I wasn't fully prepared to talk about all of that. What on earth is my phone doing? I'm not having a good day technologically. First Saturday in November is the 1st. Look at that. So yeah, November 1st, and I hope your health does allow, honestly. Yeah, Saturday, November 1st. So anyway, that should be an interesting time. So how am I going to get there? And that brings up a whole lot of questions that I have been asking myself and haven't answered. So it's it gets into, I've developed what I'm calling the 4 Ps. And the 4 Ps are process, produce, practice, and perform. So process is first, what is, you know, developing my process, which, you know, I kind of am haphazard about making music at this point. And then of course produce the pieces, produce the music, and, you know, what is my process for production. And then, you know, once that's produced and created, then there's practice for the performance, and then of course the performance itself. And every one of those, you know, with at the risk of being too of getting too deep into it, is, you know, the risk is bogging myself down in progress for or process for what is essentially an artistic endeavor. And so, you know, I really don't know where I'm going with that yet, except, you know, I do know the way that I tend to do things now most of the time, and I don't know if that's really good or not. But, you know, I always look for something to set the tone of a piece, and for me that's usually, I have a plan. I have a I'm not gonna say it. Not going to say it. Yes, I have a plan, and the plan has details yet to come. A framework is a better word. Exactly, Luke. So when I one of the first things when I'm working on a song, I wanted to figure out what the tone is, and for me, the tone or the feel of a song often comes from the pad part, which always means I start building this environment and then build a song in it, or build a piece of music in it, and um, I sometimes feel that that may be lending to a sense of sameness. I don't know. And so these are things I'm working on. And I'd love to hear folks' thoughts. What are, how do you go about it? And I know a little bit about what Luke's process is, because I watch his stream every week, or almost every week. But part of me wonders, is your production technique for your album different than your production technique or production process for the live show that you do every week? And and not just Luke. I mean, it's Ruthvik and Paul can also weigh in on this. Kurt, if you've got ideas, it's always. I know you're not really playing much yet. We still have to get you over here to hang out for a while. Well, and so Ruthvik, you bring up a good point. I'm gonna jump to, let's see, good camera, to that doesn't matter. So there's a sound that I was playing tonight. Let's stop this. That's this guy. There's a sound that I was playing, and this is it's one we've talked about before. This is off the wave state, and this is a lead pad, but it's got this sequence that's part of it. So I can hold this and the longer I hold that, the more the sequence builds. And of course, they've got stuff on the mod wheel as well, which you can't see. So anyway, that's that would lead me in one direction, that the pad that's coming up, this may not. This would probably lead me down a very different path. Even though both of these parts have been used tonight in the open jam, they lead me in different directions. Maybe, I don't know. So these are things I got to figure out. It's like, what is that process? What's going to build the tone? What's going to build the song? What's going to build, what's going to cause that build? And I'm looking at, I usually have the chat right down here in front of me, and it's not working again tonight. So, unfortunately, I have to look over here at the laptop to read the chat. Right. So, and you're using a lot of the Korg synths in your stuff, Ruthvik. So, it's there's a whole lot you can do. These things are little guys are so powerful. It's just amazing to me. They amaze me every time I work with them. I do a lot of stuff in, I will go to the other shot. I do a lot of stuff where I build up layers in Ableton Live, and now I'm firing those layers off with the Launchpad. So, that gives me opportunity to build things up. Like I've got two different pad things going here, and I can move between them while I'm playing. And bring in a bass line. So I've got a lot of parts, planned in reserve, and I've got one bass line in tonight because I just set it up. But that's it's like, is that cheating? I don't know. I mean, it certainly makes performance easy. And I can move back and forth between things, and I can set up the entire show, an entire show in Ableton, and move kind of seamlessly between songs this way as I'm learning this, which is fantastic and a lot of fun. Process for the streams is pure jamming. Okay, pick sound and improvise. Album production is something completely different, more like yours. Okay, good enough. So maybe I'm on a track that makes sense. I always wonder, because if you go to my Bandcamp, there's a whole lot of different kinds of stuff there, and every one of them was started differently. I think, not everything started from a pad, and I think it kind of a lot of those songs were actually done for a challenge, if you will, over on the Synth Samurai channel, and it was done in his Discord for a year or so ago. And so, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I did for that, and they're all completely different than or mostly completely different than the kinds of music that I usually make. So they required a different approach. And what I'm wondering if in the EP is, much as a song should be a journey, should also the EP or the album be a journey? And so those are all these things that I'm, kind of thinking about. And I want to see, what other notes did I have? So I started writing all this stuff down, and I've got this whole, I'll show you, I started writing down this process, and here it is. Sorry for the flash of bright light, but there it is. That's started as the show notes for tonight, and start getting into the process and the production. And I finally said, am I reading too much into this? Is it too much stuff? And I don't know if let's see. Subject matter. See, and that's something I haven't really gotten into, Ruthvik, is deciding what the subject is. And I guess, part of it is, what is my music meant for? And so, I'm not, at this point, I'm not doing what I'll call message music. So I'm not trying to drive some sort of point with it. My music is really kind of sort of intended for, well, in some cases, I'm wanting to work on music that is used for as a part of or in conjunction with my wife's new business, which is in dealing with I'm not really sure how to say it, but it's a lot of personal coaching, I guess, is the way to describe it. And there's a whole lot of parts that go with that. So songs about exes. We did a lot of songs about exes in my old band. It seems to me that's what our female vocalist wanted to do the most. Interesting. So yes, actually, and I'm thinking I know who you're talking about, Luke. She's done a fantastic job of it. Yeah, in that kind of in what I'll call popular music genres, yes, that's a very uh, very relatable and very common topic for a song is, the breakup or the um, um, the bad relationship or that kind of stuff. Um, what's interesting is how you tell those stories and then make it danceable, which is nothing that is anything that I do. I'll play it in a band, or I would play it in a band when I was playing, but it's not the kind of music that I would write. Um, I'm more lyrically I'm a wasteland. So don't look for any original lyrics from me anytime soon. Anyway, back at my list of stuff, it's like I'm not going to bring it back up on the screen, but I've started to look into what is it that sets the tone? Is it key and scale? Is it instrumentation? Or is it is it the atmosphere, pads and drones? What kind of things like that. But you can also set the atmosphere for a song without a pad at all. A lot of songs will start in. If we take that out, and in fact, I did this sort of at the last Gallimar. I don't have that stuff queued up, but I started in with actually started that off with a sequence, and just started in, and let that marinate a little bit before we brought in the next parts, which was a drone in that case, or a pad. And let that build under, but that sets a different kind of tone, I think. So anyway, those are all the kinds of things I'm wrestling with, and I have no idea where I'm going with it. And you saw from the screen that I had up earlier that although I had started on show notes for tonight's show, I got bogged down in it too much, and I just kind of stopped. So. I don't have any real plan for the rest of the show, except maybe to fool around and make some music. I know what we can play with. Let's jump over to the DAW, and we'll go through what's playing music tonight. We'll pick up the what's in the jam late, flip things around a little bit. So Ableton Live as always, and what you're hearing now is two things. Let's go ahead and stop stuff so we can go in order. I will probably actually end early, Jeff, but thanks. We'll see. Well, we'll see how it goes. So the pads. There's two pads in tonight's performance or tonight's jam. One is from Absinthe. Absinthe was the first VST that I bought way back when it first came out. In fact, I beta tested it and bought it as soon as it was available commercially. And so the thing that got me to drag it back out was Ocean Synthesis, I think it is, OSS, the folks who did Porthyra and some other stuff that I've talked about on the channel in the past, released a whole bunch of new presets for Absinthe just this last week. So, that got me playing with Absinthe again. And so this is the pad. And it too has a playable component, This is just a wonderful synth. The user interface is dated, to be sure. But this is really, I think, the synth that kind of started the whole, wave tables and You know, the entire wavetable phenomenon. You know, it's just when people say, yeah, I brought this out back a few months ago. Was doing something. People commented that it sounded like, you know, whatever, sounded like whatever VST synth of the day, and I said, well, more correctly, that synth sounds like absinthe. Because absinthe so far predates so much of what we use today. And it still sounds freaking amazing. Yes, definitely need to get you down here, and I will. Um, June is looking kind of tenuous at this point, so we might be into July, if that works for you, Rudvik. So anyway, absinthe was the first synth. The second one is we'll 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 push Luke's buttons here. It's the new Pure Lo-Fi plugin from Arturia. And one other thing about this synth, I mean, this is, if you look at it closely under the hood, you get into the advanced screens. Stab you in the heart. But see, here's the thing. This is a whole lot of like, you know, kind of like, it's a lot of like Pigments. It's built on Pigments essentially, with a few little additions. And so, you know, it doesn't have to do lo-fi sounds. It can be anything you want it to be. And I've got the you know, I've got the lo-fi turned down a lot. I mean, that's this guy up here. I've only got that up a little bit, just a little bit for dressing, and then I'm following it up with let's see, following it up. Oops, wrong thing there. That guy. Following it up with Black Hole. I'm not even using the internal effects on it. And I think it's a, you know, I think it's a perfectly viable synth. It has a character, and you know, that's one thing. I'm a lot about texture, you know, and movement, and this has got it in spades. You know, there's a lot of character here, and I think it can sound perfectly modern. Doesn't have to be all, you know, lo-fi and crusty sounding. So this is this started as a factory patch. It's tweaked, you know. And that gets loops back a little bit to my process question. It's, you know, am I going to be doing, how am I going to be feeling about, you know, about patches? Is it presets? Is it bespoke patches? Is it a mixture? Is it somewhere in between? And I don't really know. I know, Luke, you start with a lot with presets and tweak. I know you have a love for a lot of the presets in the Korg sense. I do too. So anyway, so that was that's coming off lo-fi. Usually, and I know sometimes you just take it as is too, because if it's a good preset like that, you know, the one that I was playing on the wave wave state, that's factory, and I think it's a great sound. I really enjoy playing it. There's a couple of them in there that I really enjoy that I don't see a need to mess with much. So anyway, next up, I threw Zyklop in here tonight, which is half of Myth basically. And the only reason I threw it in, I'm doing this little arpeggiated thing. Because all of my songs feature an arpeggiator, at least one. And I can't say that this is mine. It's not. Chris Bryant just released this today for his patrons. And I will probably tweak this some and make it a little more of my own. But his stuff is just so good most of the time. So anyway, that was that. Also in the jam is, let's see, I've got that out of the way. Polybrute doing this. And this is a patch I made about 3 minutes before I pressed the go button. And I'm actually playing it off the Control S right now because I like the aftertouch a little better on the Control S. I might could play it here on the. So anyway, that was a fun one. Let's see, what else have we got going here? And then finally the wave state for tonal stuff, the wave state piece we were doing. Now I've been using this one for a while. The last few weeks I've used this or some, ad hoc tweaks of it. But tonight I just pulled it up right out of the box. This is a preset called Subtle Thoughts. And this is what I would call, Luke, I call it a twisted clock. It's block with special sauce. And then, so finally, let's go back to that, and we get into, for percussion, I've got the, a little bit out of the Session Percussionist. Yeah, just two sounds, just shakers. So they're just doing this thing. And then the actual drum parts are a rack that I put together with my own sequence. Oh, and I got it faded down. Where is it? So Jeff, you were asking me a couple weeks ago about this particular pattern, and we can take a look real quick at some of this. Basically, this was created using a lot of the new tools in the newer tools in Ableton Live 12. Messing around with different different timing changes, just going through and messing with chops, and then once you get into the chop, it's like what's left after the chop, and then a lot of so that's how the kick ended up coming in. And then the snare I placed very, very particularly, and then everything has its, except for the snare, has its velocity and chance messed with. So it's a little different every time through the loop. So that's my percussion section. So that's all how I did, and maybe I'm not going to do it tonight, but maybe in a future show I can kind of sort of show how that goes together. But the whole thing is the 2 shakers, and then the 3 parts of the kit, and that's the entire percussion track. Trying to keep things simple, and that's one thing that I was noticing. I would run into a lot of things where I would end up, I think, with too much stuff, too many layers, and it ended up sounding like mud. So subsequently, I was not real happy, and so my new approach is definitely working into less is more, where there's not as much stuff piled up, and just keep things nice and simple and clean. 1 or 2 pads, drones, a bass line, and a couple of lead instruments, and some percussion, maybe. That makes all the instruments I think you need. I see a lot of people building these things with these monster stacks of tracks, and it's like, okay, fine. And I think a lot of times I think in terms of how do you perform this thing, because I believe strongly that music should be shared, and I really like it when you can share it in a live environment with real people, and so it's like, how would you bring this out? And if it were a band, I see some of these people's projects, and there's 47 tracks or 147 tracks, and I'm thinking, how many people are you going to put on a stage, if you're going to do a band kind of performance, and so I tend to think in terms largely of 4 and 5 pieces, 6 maybe, so the EDM, Luke, are you talking about the stuff with 1 million tracks, or? Because I even see people making ambient that have 1 million tracks. It's just like, what's going on here? And it's not so much. I don't know if they're trading off in, between stuff or how they're doing it, but it's just like, it's just crazy. A lot of it's too complex, I think, and you kind of lose to me anyway, you lose the meat of it. You lose the important parts. So anyway, that's what was making noises tonight, and I will say I'm a little disappointed that chat's not working, because we spent a bunch of time on it. Jeff and I spent a bunch of time on that the other night, and I'm not sure what I broke tonight, but because I've tested it like 5 or 6 times over the week, and it worked every time I tested it. And now, of course, it's not wanting to work. I'm getting the oops, something went wrong. I'm not sure what's going on. So anyway, makes me sad. But anyway, I guess it's not so important. Anyway, let me get back to the screen where I can see what you all are saying. Well, and it's been solid. It's been solid up until today. I tested it yesterday. So, and therein lies Rudvik brings up a point. You know, if you, a lot of his music is, he'll do an entire song or a group of songs just with the wave state, or just with the mod wave, or just with the multi-poly, and it's a complete thing. You know, this, find his stuff on Bandcamp. I'll put his link down below later on. You know, definitely this stuff is great. And I'll put a link to his YouTube channel as well. Just, you know, he's got it's simple, but I won't say it's not simple music, but it's a simple setup, or simple-ish setup, and you know, it's amazing what you can, how much you can do with a little. So anyway, I think I'm actually going to call it for tonight. I think I've said anything I've had to say, which wasn't as organized as often, but you know, what the heck. Well, it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. So anyway, gonna call it a night. Yes, it has been fun, but I'm going to call it a night early and let you all go off to make your own music. And I will put the Trippy Vision back on. And Gary Newman, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Gary Newman's fantastic for Kurt. You know, and not just his poppy stuff. His poppy stuff was really good, no doubt. But his deeper stuff is also really amazing. He's a first-rate musician, composer, writer. Yeah, one of the godfathers of electronic music for sure. At least modern electronic music. Just, yeah. And there's so many of them, and of course they're all there. You know, I'm getting old and senile, so all the names are falling out of my head. But so many people, so many great artists from that time, from the time period where Newman became popular. There's a lot of great synth music. Oh, Howard Jones, very poppy, but just everything is masterfully done. I remember seeing one of his earlier shows live, and it was him on stage, and he was obviously playing sequences and stuff like that, but him on stage, and then he had a bass player, and that was the entire stage setup, and it was fabulous. Filled Merriweather Post Pavilion, and sounded amazing. So anyway, I'm going to noodle. Thanks for coming, guys, and I'll turn the Trippy Vision back on, and we will catch you. I should be back next week, and I may try and put up another video, something I was working on, about making your own wavetables, and it loops back to some of the stuff that I was doing with Vital way back when I did the 4-part series. There's just it's like a little addendum to that, and yeah, Klaus Schultz, absolutely. So anyway, it's a special way to make your own wavetables, giving you a little more control over what's going on with the wavetable to a point. So anyway, I need to readdress it. I made it on the quick, or tried to make it on the quick, and it didn't come out the way I wanted it to. I got interrupted a bunch of times. So let me do it right. I'll put it up, hopefully, probably by the weekend. Take a look for that. So anyway, thanks everybody for coming. We'll catch you all next week, if not before. See you all on the Discords and all that good stuff. Cheers.